Suffering, Elixir of the Strong. What's up, folks? This is Justin Garcia, a.k.a. Master Chim, and I'm here with the White Elixir, White Boy Patrick Kelly.
What's up?
And welcome to another episode of The Pressure Project. ThePressureProject.com is our website. Info at ThePressureProject.com is our contact email. Send us some feedback. We always love reading it. We also have ThePressureProjectMembers.com, and that is our membership site. If you've ever gotten anything out of this program, try a membership out. I think you'll enjoy it. Yeah. Aside from having, I guess, around 200 episodes archived at this point.
Yeah.
We also have the Loyalty Matrix Decoded series, which continues to generate rave reviews.
It does.
I don't want to sound like an infomercial, but I get a lot of good feedback regularly about that.
A lot of people using it
and
in different ways too, not just like for their schools, but for
right.
everything.
And I think finally people are starting to realize, and today's content certainly speaks to this. People are starting to realize that it's all congruent. Yeah, it's all congruent. It all fits.
It does.
Right. It's the Rubik's Cube of power.
That's pretty cool.
We're working towards a direction that people are starting to see the sides look like the same color. It's like, wait a minute, this stuff is going to work out. I didn't think that was happening, but it's actually going to happen.
They're starting to understand the algorithm of strength.
Yes, I like it, and it was the intent from the beginning to make that happen. But sometimes you try to design a method by which you're trying to transfer this information, and you basically are reduced to hoping that people understand it. One of my teaching methodologies relies heavily on an actual interaction between who I'm teaching.
True.
And this media does not provide that. So when I say, info at thepressureproject.com is our contact email, send me feedback. It's because I very much want to see how this is affecting people and what conversations are having because of this content.
Yeah, and the feedback has been strong.
Right, it has. And it's funny, and I've spoken about this before, but quickly before we get into it, sometimes I get these messages that are like just mind blowing.
Yeah.
Somebody will, it's always brothers, it's always men. They'll write us a message and they'll talk about what they were going through in their lives, how they found the podcast, how they started listening to it, how they started applying some of the concepts to their everyday life, and how they're now in a better position because of it.
Yeah, 100%.
I never get tired of reading those emails. Pretty cool.
Yeah, they're awesome. Keep them coming.
Every once in a while, you get one that wishes we were dead.
Yeah, that happens.
Wish on.
It's funny, though. The people who want us dead aren't very articulate at all.
They're not.
They're not the most clever group.
It's like getting threatened by the anti-gun people.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, and you die, and then you die.
I'm going to give you a noogie.
I don't like you very much at all.
What was the movie?
Which one?
With Ben Stiller. He had the angry superpower.
Oh, Mystery Men. Yeah, Mystery Men. He was Captain Furious.
Yeah, he just got really angry.
Mr. Furious, yeah. He's like,
nothing happened.
Yeah, nothing would happen at all.
That's what they are, the mystery moonbats.
Mystery moonbats coming to a theater near you.
All right, moving right along. So suffering. Elixir of the Strong. We're going to start off with two definitions, and we'll move on from there. I'm a little parched, so I'm going to drink some of my glow-in-the-dark toxic caffeine drink. We found that the local gym ran out of my normal drink. Yeah. So I'm drinking something that I may very well have a heart attack right in front of this camera.
Something that was banned, I think, in 2008. Like at one point was banned.
Don't call it a comeback.
So they tried to bring back 2008 for MC.
So
yeah, I always picture that stuff being silver, like mercury, but I've never actually tried or looked at it.
It tastes like silver mercury.
It tastes like something out of a thermometer. Awesome.
But suffering. You do that one.
Okay, suffering. The discomfort experienced in the face of adversity and strife.
Okay, so adversity and strife. That is things that aren't going your way. Things are incongruent with your intent, what you are used to, what the status quo is. This is not that. There are factors involved that are skewing your experience so that you are not experiencing the status quo. And the discomfort that all of those things cause, we call suffering. All right.
Check.
Strength, I'll do.
Okay.
Let you do suffering. I'm doing strength.
Awesome.
I'll be the feeder. Strength is the accumulated resilience accommodating the pursuit of power in the face of adversity. All right. So let's go over suffering again. Suffering is the discomfort experienced in the face of adversity and strife. Strength is the accumulated resilience accommodating the pursuit of power in the face of adversity and strife, we could say. Now, the definition for strength we released probably 6 months ago.
Yeah.
In one of our, I think it was one of my memes, but the meme I think was made during of a podcast.
Yeah, it was.
And so these definitions are consistent, and they work. So suffering is what you are actually experiencing during those times of adversity, that if it has a positive effect on you, will allow you to accumulate resilience, all right, to pursue power. And that is what we call strength. So suffering, we could say, leads to strength. Now, not all suffering leads to strength. Some of it we accept. Excuse me. Some of it we accept. Some forms of suffering we accept as leading us to being stronger at the tail end of it. Some of it we're not so aware of, and some of it we may think makes us stronger, but it does not. And I just so happen to have 3 lists.
Not bad.
All right, so
3 lists of 3.
3 lists of 3, 9.
Just saying.
Nine.
These numbers mean things.
9.
9.
So I'm going to read you the title of the list first. I think I just said it, but just to articulate it separately. List 1, we have 3 accepted ways suffering breeds strength. List 2, 3 not so accepted ways that suffering breeds strength. And finally, we have 3 fraudulent ways suffering breeds strength. Okay, so we have 2 where the suffering leads to strength, and one of the lists are those things where people think it leads to strength, but it actually
they're wrong. It leads to death and weakness.
That's right.
Yes.
All right. So, and each of these lists have 3 in them. So let's start off with list 1: 3 accepted ways suffering breeds strength. Number 1, I think everybody knows, probably thinking of at some point, up until this point in the conversation.
True.
Weight training.
Weight training, yeah.
Weight training.
Yeah.
Weight training is suffering. It's suffering we've designed to elicit a response and adaptation from our body to become stronger, right? There are different types of weight training, and I've always said, the way I've always conveyed, how we lift weights and in what capacity. I say, if you look at nature, there's stronger, there's longer, but there's never really bigger, right? So bigger is bodybuilding, but stronger and longer is what we functionally use in the world of sports, in the world of violence,
Yeah.
in general health, right? Being stronger and having more endurance, i.e. longer, is what we're doing. And all of it done via weight training is suffering.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Resistance training, if you think about it, describes exactly what we're trying to convey today.
100%. Yeah.
We're using resistance, we're using adversity to overcome it and get stronger, right? And the process of applying that adversity is suffering.
Yeah, 100%. You're never going to be comfortable under the bar, and if you are, you're going too light.
Right, absolutely. So, number 2 on this list. Okay, and these are the 3 accepted ways that suffering breeds strength. Number 1 was weight training. Number 2, dieting.
Yeah.
Dieting. Now, I've had the fortunate experiences of having competed in professional mixed martial arts, professional grappling, amateur bodybuilding, amateur powerlifting, amateur judo. All of these things required not only peak performance physically, but also weight restrictions in terms of weight classes.
Yeah, 100%.
And if any of you guys have ever competed or have gone through some form of competition that required a weight limit, you may very well be familiar with the concept of suffering as a means of becoming stronger.
Yeah, cutting weight.
Cutting weight, eating what you don't want to eat. You know, one of the things I've always, admired professional bodybuilders for is their complete just lack of wanting to eat good food.
Yeah. They just want to eat garbage.
And it's I understand, I've gone through different spells in eating where, when I'm eating clean or I remember when I was competing in MMA, I would eat meals and you do it long enough, the thing tastes great to you.
Yeah.
One of my treats I used to have was a whole grain waffle with sugar-free jelly.
That sounds good though.
It was like it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same reaction to eating strawberry shortcake I get now.
See, for me, when I was always cutting weight, I eat like a kid, so I don't have a very diverse palate.
Mm-hmm.
Grilled chicken, broccoli, grapes and bananas for dinner. Like I would have grapes and bananas almost every night, and that would be fine, and I would enjoy it. So I was good,
Right.
But I'm not missing. I don't have anything special that I eat. So
Right. So you don't experience suffering for eating because
I don't get to have my cake. I don't get to have ice cream. Like I go nuts when I'm eating
but
whatever I want.
suffer when I do this.
Understood.
You're saying you're good.
Yeah.
I'm suffering.
Yeah.
I'm like, this sucks.
This is bullshit.
But we do it as a form of sacrifice because we know that suffering is going to lead to strength.
It does.
Mm-hmm. So number 3.
Yeah.
And this, I think, is pretty obvious, but maybe the application may not, may elude some.
Sure.
Is medical attention.
Yeah.
Having a medical procedure done, having your teeth extracted.
Sure.
I remember the scene in Castaway.
Yeah.
When Tom Hanks had to get rid of his tooth.
Yep. Yeah.
And the pain he was in and knocked him unconscious and everything.
Yeah, but he had to get rid of it because it would have.
He had to get rid of it because it would have gotten worse and infected him and he would have died. So medical attention is a means by which we suffer because we know it's going to make us stronger.
Yeah, like if they were told, when I got my leg fixed, like I had to get that done. And it felt like I didn't walk for like 2 years, but it was only like a month.
Right. Yeah, but think about this. Think about, when you're on the mat, when your leg was snapped.
Yeah.
Even moving onto the gurney, onto the like all of that hurts.
Yeah, none of it was good.
Yeah, but we know that this is how we get better, right? Yeah. So even at that sort of minute level, we see this concept represented, right? So those are the 3 accepted ways, right? The normal ways, the things that people go, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
The ways that suffering breeds strength. So now 3 not so accepted ways that suffering breeds strength. So now all of these do breed strength. I speak from experience, to some more than others. But these are things that people may say, no, you don't want this. This isn't going to build strength. They don't see it as such, right? For whatever reasons we'll get into.
Yeah.
But this is that list. So number 1, pain inoculation. Pain inoculation.
Some of the best training ever.
Ever
of all time.
So,
if not the best.
Right. So we've spoken about this before, but some of the things that we've been through together in our timeline, where our timelines overlapped, and then some of the things that we have done before we ever met. Let's talk about the things we share in common.
Yeah.
Pepper spray.
Yep.
Flogged.
Correct.
Shot with shot with a whole lot of different things that people get shot with.
Yeah.
Never been shot with a live round or a live arrow. But True. Everything else.
Yeah. We'll just leave it at
that. Right. We've done, I've done things to students that broke them at a low level. I've done things with students that has allowed them to transcend the mindset they had prior to these experiences. There's been times where, we'll be rolling and I'll tell everybody to stand up and slap each other.
Yeah, those are
Everyone,
fun.
10 slaps each.
10
go.
slaps, yeah.
Everybody line up. Everybody gets slapped on their chest or their back 10 times.
Yeah.
As hard as everyone can.
Shin to shin.
Shin
to
to
thigh.
shin.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, that video.
Yeah.
Which was so.
Yeah.
Like, that was like baby steps when you start training.
Yeah.
These are the things that we get used to. I've done different sorts of conditioning for my body under the guidance of some good friends of mine.
Yeah. Awesome stuff.
That all hurts, but it's in hopes of making myself stronger. So pain inoculation is something that allows you to sort of conduct yourself without the normal filters of fear.
Correct.
Right? So I remember a simple example. I remember when I was playing football. I played football in high school and 1 year in college, Division III. And I was a running back. And I remember when you're running the rock and you see a tackler in the open field, you get to make decisions. Ideally, you never touch him. But there's a certain point where you realize he's going to get me.
Yeah.
And you decide whether I'm going to make moves to make him getting me as painless as possible.
Yeah.
Or if I'm going to get that fucker too.
Yeah, understood.
Right? And I always chose. I never ran out of bounds.
Yeah,
ever.
Understood.
Even at my detriment at times. There were times where, because in football, you run out of bounds, the clock stops.
Clock stops, yeah.
So I, be end of the first half and like 20 seconds left, and I'm like, fuck this guy.
I'm taking him
running
out.
him over.
Yep.
Instead of just stepping out of bounds. So it wasn't always a good thing, but it
was fun.
Right. Just getting that pain inoculation in any way that you can. It breeds power.
It does.
It breeds strength. With our children.
Yeah.
I always, I remember making a video for new parents of students that go to MMA schools, jiu-jitsu schools. And I spoke about a concept I call pit bullying.
Yeah.
And it's really a priority of how we introduce the martial arts or physical training of the martial arts to children. And it has very little to do early on with technique.
Very little, which some parents unfortunately don't grasp.
They don't get because they themselves have nothing to really reference it.
Yeah, unfortunately.
If you bring a 5-year-old to this school and you are a weak man, your wife is a weak woman, we know that right off the bat. And judgment, aside, because it doesn't really matter to us. We're there to help the child. But when that child joins the program, we know that the child needs to be toughened up before any techniques are really conveyed to them.
Yeah, 100%.
And this toughening up really just comes from what normally used to happen organically.
Yeah.
Rough and tumble. You see it in nature. Those of us, over 35, we remember this as kids. Toy guns, breaking our legs. I remember this is great. I broke my shin twice as a kid, jumping ramps on my dirt bike, and there was a great meme of some kid. He's like a white kid on a bike, and he's like jumping like a milk carton ramp, and he's like falling off the bike. And it's like, how did we ever survive?
Yeah, how did we?
They're like, well, but all of us did, and that's the point. Do you remember the monkey bars?
Yeah.
The metal monkey bars. The grid of metal pipes.
Yes. That I fell off and landed on my face. Next thing I remember waking up in the apartment.
Yeah. Well,
I was like.
Yet here we are, right? Yet here we are.
So, how did I get here?
Yeah. So you look at the playgrounds now, and I hadn't revisited any of that until, my wife and I started having kids. And you look at the playgrounds now, and it's like, this is where you think they'd put retarded children.
Yeah.
It's like. Because then I'm thinking, okay, what are they going to put little helmets on the kids next?
Pretty much. Just put
and
them
then
in
you look, you can't ride a helmet or can't ride a bike or anything without a helmet on. No. It's like they are putting helmets on everybody.
They're going to put them in little bubbles and they just bounce off each other.
Oh,
I
man.
hadn't broken a bone until I started training, like here. But I did. I was playing guns and I jumped down my flight of stairs with guns and separated my growth plate, like the part of my heel. That was the closest I came to that. And that was a lot of fun though.
But shit happens.
Yeah, like I was listening. I had to make it down the stairs. I had guns. I was killing things. So I had to do it.
Got to go. Yeah.
Yep.
So with even with raising children, we see that so many means by which we introduced the concept of pain to them are being removed. But once it's gone, it's the void that's left is a great indicator of its value. The value that it had when it was present. So pain inoculation is certainly a great means by which we could breed strength through suffering.
Yeah, especially with kids, it's very, very important.
Right. So the next one actually speaks to this somewhat. Poverty. So poverty is a way that people don't realize that people breed strength. Now, I remember. Well, let's stick with. Let's actually segue from the scenario with the helmets and the playgrounds with the kids and stuff.
Yeah.
So growing up in the Bronx in the 80s, I remember playing on abandoned cars, playing inside abandoned buildings, running past crackheads.
Fun.
I remember wrestling on mattresses on street corners that were thrown out weeks prior. Playing football in the street. Like all of these things that were normal to me growing up are gone nowadays. We don't see them unless you go to the really bad neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So you go to the really bad neighborhoods, sure, there's a lot of inherent danger because of the nature of their environment. But one of the things you'll also see, and you have to concede and acknowledge, is you'll see 4 and 5-year-old kids knowing how to cross the street.
Yeah.
You'll see 8-year-olds, holding their younger siblings' hands, going to the store, ordering stuff, putting money in their pocket, going.
Yeah.
You'll see an awareness that people have because of what they've been through in their past. Find somebody who's grown up in poverty-like conditions, and they're aware. They're aware. They know what's going on. They know how to speak to people. They know there is strength in what they've had. We always say, this guy's book smart, this guy's street smart.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, what is street smart if not an education you receive in the street?
Correct.
And who is not on the street more than somebody who is poverty-ridden?
Correct,
or from a lower economic,
Yeah, they don't have
status.
a shelter. They don't have that level of protection, that veil
Right.
that protects them from things like that. So
Right.
they need to be
Absolutely.
more capable, or they wouldn't be around.
Absolutely.
So
a not so accepted way that suffering breeds strength, poverty.
yeah,
Right. And also, I think I want to put in here. Remember, we're talking about strength.
yes,
We're not talking about power.
correct.
So to bring back the definition of strength, it's the accumulated resistance accommodating the pursuit of power
Yes,
in the face of adversity.
Yeah.
Right. So power, we could say, is almost a location.
it is.
We say strength is the fuel that allows us
To get there. Correct.
Right?
Yeah,
So we're not saying that, if you grow up in poverty-like conditions, you're going to be powerful.
no, it doesn't mean that at all.
But your level of resistance in the
Yes.
form of strength is going to be high.
Unless you blame other people for your problems.
Right. Well, this is now the criteria
Yeah.
by which we need to see how these things are processed.
Correct.
So 3 not so accepted ways suffering breeds strength. Number 3,
Number 3,
violence.
violence.
So
But we don't need violence anymore.
I look forward to that day. So
Yeah.
one of the things about violence is that people are just put off by its presence. We did the problem with violence episode recently,
Good one.
and if you haven't listened to that, I would definitely say to do so. A lot of good stuff there. But for the most part, people don't understand that when you are violent, there is a danger that is not present when you are not violent.
Correct.
The fact that we need a relationship with violence almost makes the danger that is a part of it almost a moot point.
Yeah.
If I fight, there's a chance I might get hurt. Well, that's all well and good, but we have to fight.
Yeah.
So the chance that you might get hurt, you almost put that on the shelf for now.
True.
It's not something that it's not factoring into our decision whether
Not at all.
to fight, right? So being violent or being exposed to violence breeds strength through suffering because violence and being on the right end of a violent transaction, a violent, episode, is resilience.
It is. Yeah.
That is a testament to what you are able to do. And I've been in some fights, that have lasted, one punch. I've been in some fights that have lasted, 2 minutes.
Yeah. That's a good one.
A 2-minute fight, like, man, you guys have no idea. I love when I see these guys that they part of their fight training, they're running miles and miles and miles
with the elevation mask on.
Yeah, usually nowadays the elevation mask on.
Yeah,
and elevated level of stupidity, and they see that as something that isn't specific to their sport application, when it is.
Yeah.
It's like, and I'm not saying, listen, you want to run, you want to do your road work, whatever. None of my guys ever have. I never have, and we've never had conditioning issues. But all that being said, it's a sport application, right?
Yeah.
Most fights never last more than a minute, ever. So to be able to fight, for 25 minutes, talk about a title level MMA fight.
Sure.
5 minutes of fire. That's not natural. It's not something you see in nature. So it's something that you will definitely, when you become a sport athlete, you would definitely sacrifice some other forms of preparation to accommodate that need for endurance.
Yeah.
So when I say violence, breeds strength, it is not, when you're a fighter, the training makes you stronger necessarily.
Yeah,
right?
Makes sense.
It's the actual real world violence that puts you through that transformation, of suffering. Makes sense, right?
Agreed. And it definitely, people don't want to accept that at all.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's fitting on this list.
So the last list, this is terrible. This is absolutely terrible. This drink is terrible.
Oh, they should have left it in 2008.
Oh my God. So the last list, 3 fraudulent ways suffering breeds strength.
So it doesn't block the hammer.
Yes, don't block the hammer. I'm about to hit it with the hammer. So now these are ways that people think we become stronger.
Yeah, they definitely think this.
But we don't.
No, not at all.
Number one. Compassion. Compassion.
Yeah.
Nietzsche said it best. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said, compassion is when I see you suffering and I start suffering too.
Add suffering to the world.
Add suffering to the world.
Yeah.
So compassion, the reason why that doesn't breed strength, and I have a whole position on this. Just recently, I was talking with a bunch of brothers of ours, and we had a great talk, and I was able to articulate this somewhat, and I'd want to share it here. I think that it's human nature to pursue suffering. I don't think that we are curious creatures.
Yeah.
I don't think that we're explorers, right? And I'm a Star Trek guy, right?
Yeah. To boldly go.
Yeah. I don't think that that's the case. I think it's the challenge. And challenge is nothing if not chosen adversity, engineered adversity.
Yeah.
So when it comes to...
So you think it's a war, not a trek?
Star
couldn't
war.
help myself.
No.
I had to throw that in there. Couldn't help it.
So I think that throughout history, we've always pursued more, trying to push the boundaries of our lives, push the boundaries of our realities. And the currency by which we paid for this was in suffering, and in turn, resilience as a byproduct of that suffering. But at the end of it, we had more.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was a curiosity. I think it was as Nietzsche would say, a will to power.
Yeah.
And
100%.
what I think a lot of people suffer from today, and this isn't a good thing, is they have a fraudulent application of pursuing that adversity, of generating that adversity.
100%. Yeah.
So when, no matter what sort of model of migration throughout history of the human species one accepts, we all agree upon that there were groups of people who pushed over to other lands and had to discover new animals, new hunting methods, new plants, new seasons and climates, and there was an adaptation, but they kept on pursuing it. They kept on pushing.
Yeah.
Sometimes out of desperation, but certainly I would argue sometimes out of inspiration. Sometimes just as wanting more, just wanting to grow. And, what's over that hill? Let's go get it. Because once we're there too.
Correct.
And it
we have
expands, more. Right?
Yeah.
So I don't think, people put money aside, and try to buy their homes and lands because they're curious.
No.
It's like, why do we all, try to sacrifice in the form of our labor to buy homes, to buy properties, to buy even things?
True.
It's the challenge. It's the wanting more. It's wanting to be more. It's the will to power.
It is,
as you would say. And I think, bringing it back into my point, nowadays we have people who no longer suffer through their normal navigation of life. We have people who are detached from that feedback loop of reality. We have people who live in this insulated bubble. I've often called them the leaves of society.
Correct. Yeah.
And these people, they don't have suffering.
No.
I would argue that they create it.
They do. Or they wait for the next dead baby to show up on the beach.
That is not contradictory. So to say or
and
right.
And
so words mean things.
True.
So all of these things I'm going to go over, I would say are created suffering that the individual may not even be aware of. And in compassion, I would argue when you see all these liberals, all these just traitors to their people, arguing for and campaigning for the migration, the mass migration into their countries, knowing full well that this is going to undermine the identity of their people forever. If not genocide, their bloodlines.
Yeah.
And they still see it, as something that should be done. I would argue that they see the suffering or the perceived suffering of these people, and they try to internalize that because now they themselves are part of this suffering.
Yeah.
We need to help them. I'm on this mission. And you see this with liberals all the time.
All the time.
You see it with the animal people. You see it with people that create this through compassion, through the currency of compassion, create this synthetic, simulated suffering.
Yeah.
Because their lives prior to that didn't have any. Or at least not enough to sort of satisfy that basic human need to will to power.
Correct. Yeah. And at times, the suffering finds them, like when they get raped or get eaten.
Right. That's different.
Yeah.
That's.
Is
Are
it
you
different?
making a joke?
No.
What are you doing? Like,
I'm not making a joke.
Understand what you're talking about.
I'm talking about the people who have so much compassion that they go to try to help the people they have compassion for, and then are raped or murdered by the people that they're trying to help.
Well, what that does is it allows them, or it, if anything, is an indicator that their original premise was fraudulent.
Correct.
So when you go and you go to travel to another land and you're faced with a new climate as a people, talking prehistoric man, there is a wager that you're putting on the table.
Yeah.
And the outcome, the potential outcome. Your people die, you just didn't make it. Talk about the settling the West, in early America.
Yeah.
It's Oregon Trail, right? You died of dysentery. We knew what we were getting ourselves into, and we tried our best to overcome it, to crush the challenge. But these people, they get reality that touches them eventually. They put themselves in positions where they get so close to some other circle of reality, somebody else's, cycle touches them, and they realize that everything they had thought from the beginning till now was fraudulent. It was
Yeah.
bullshit.
Which we haven't seen the Green Inferno yet, but I hear it's pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or the Eli Roth. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So,
Yeah.
so that's what happens. You know, and intentions don't feed a family.
No,
you know,
they don't.
They don't defend a wall. They don't. They don't do anything. Of significance of that.
True.
Oftentimes, intentions in the form of compassion is really just a move away from what actually works.
True.
What needs to be done.
100%.
So that was one fraudulent way that people think that suffering breeds strength, but it actually doesn't. Number two, multiculturalism.
Yeah.
So we hear that diversity is strength, but the people who are citing that are usually the ones who are advocating for a lack of diversity.
They are.
They're lacking for this, I should say, they're vying for this melting pot society where everything loses its original form and we all become one. Now, it's something that we've spoken to at length in the past. When you bring a bunch of incompatible cultures together, or even compatible cultures, you bring them together, they will only exist in their commonalities.
Yeah.
So just the things that they have in common is what will dictate the sort of parameters of society, right, of social interaction.
Yeah.
So people think that, the growing pains, as they would perceive it, of having different cultures being together will ultimately make them stronger. I understand that, they keep fucking your goats, but eventually they will learn that the goats are off limits and you guys will be able to live in peace. And at the end of it, we'll all be stronger because of it.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
No. Yeah, it's complete bullshit.
It's unfounded. It has never happened in history. There is nothing but the speculation of just completely detached individuals, people who champion multiculturalism are people who are not exposed to the detriments of multiculturalism in application. These are people who live on their high hills in their big houses, who are jet setting around the globe, just trying to think what's best for everybody else.
Yeah.
Right? The intellectuals, the socialites, the elites, the people behind the curtain. None of these people have to experience these things. So, unfortunately, though, they're able to very effectively communicate to the low-hanging fruit,
Yeah.
the sheep of the society, of any society, that this is a good idea.
Yeah.
When I see the people in Iceland saying, 10,000 people in Iceland saying we'll give up our homes to refugees, i.e. migrants, because they're not fucking refugees. That is as frustrating as it could be.
Invaders.
It has to be looked at for what it is. Just stupid people getting, falling for the magic show.
Correct. Yeah.
And the magicians are very good at their craft.
They're very good. And some, it's part of their religious doctrine to lie to you.
Right.
And to deceive you as an infidel.
Right. So, I mean, whatever the differences specifically are, there are differences that have never been shown to eventually create some sort of utopia.
No.
But this seems to be what everybody thinks we should be moving toward. This utopian society where we all live together. Coexisting and living together are two different things. Right now, America and Africa coexist, right? But we're not living together.
No.
Okay?
No.
So by all means, coexistence is what it is. And all that being said, I mean, you have to factor in that, why do we get along with somebody? Because they don't have something that we need.
Correct. As soon as they do.
As soon as they do, then it is what it is.
Yeah.
Then it's might is right, just the way it's always been.
Yeah, it always will be.
All right, I love watching some of these nature shows. And a lot of people have never really thought about this, but you watch nature shows, you are completely under the control of the filmmaker. Because does he decide to personalize the lion family?
Yeah.
Or does he decide to personalize the zebra family?
True. Yeah.
Because the other one is automatically portrayed in a way that we can consume it.
Yeah.
If we love those lions, then the zebras are they're like
Food.
chickens. They're like chickens on a farm.
Yeah, just food.
But if we're watching a documentary on the zebras,
Correct.
and then those lions come,
Those lions.
evil sons of bitches.
Yeah, eating our favorite zebras.
So we're very used to having nature being served to us in a palatable way.
Correct.
Who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy?
Cecil's the good guy.
Right. Which one of the animals is us?
Yeah.
And all it is indifference.
Yeah.
The universe is indifferent. Nature is indifferent. There is no morality that the universe follows. It is just atoms fucking banging into each other for all of eternity. And when we look at it in any other type of way, we lose sight of those things that have allowed us to survive till now.
Correct, 100%.
So when you look at the Native American culture, right? Native Americans, and this is Columbus Day, right?
It is Columbus Day.
Native Americans.
Yeah. Not when it airs, but when we're recording.
Right now.
Yeah.
We talk about what, Native Americans are going to, or what they have a history of, what type of people they were before any of the Europeans showed up. And they were violent.
Yeah.
They were violent.
Yep.
Now, that doesn't undermine any of the aspects of their culture or society.
It's not a negative thing.
That we find, regal almost, or at least, dignified and powerful. It doesn't undermine any of that. But to just overlook the fact that they were violent because somehow that's supposed to trump everything else, you're not on the right side of nature. Because nature is indifferent. And violence doesn't immediately, nullify or negate any sort of accomplishment non-violently.
True. Yeah.
All right. So compassion, multiculturalism. The last one, submission.
Submission.
So now here's the application of that I intended. When we give ourselves, our lives, our fates, if you will, to another person, and that person makes us suffer, there is no strength inherent in that process. The act of being submissive to another person does not necessarily breed strength.
True.
Because you are completely under the control of another person.
Yeah.
That person will make you strong if he wants you to be strong. But he will crush you and make you weak and keep a boot on your throat, figuratively or literally, if he sees fit. Because that is the nature of being in that type of relationship.
That makes sense.
So we see sometimes, I see this with religious people often.
Yeah.
It's like you just have to submit and, no.
Yeah.
No. That's why I don't worship gods.
Yeah.
I honor gods. I don't worship anybody. I don't worship anything, anybody. Because nothing deserves to be in this universe more than I do. And everything's just a negotiation and a relationship. But the suffering that comes from being submissive to another person is suffering, you certainly deserve. It's certainly suffering that you've created.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's suffering that may wind up with nothing. There may not be a silver lining.
Yeah.
Right? So let's go over those lists really quickly.
Cool.
We have 3 accepted ways suffering breeds strength: weight training, dieting, and medical attention. Second list, 3 not so accepted ways suffering breeds strength: pain inoculation, poverty, and violence. And then finally, 3 fraudulent ways suffering breeds strength: compassion, multiculturalism, and submission.
Awesome.
Let's move on.
All right. Let's do it.
Our pressure player
Yes.
for this episode: Navy SEALs.
Yeah. Not the movie.
Not the movie.
Not the movie. The movie's not bad.
I love Charlie Sheen as much as the next guy. Listen, they killed what was his
everybody.
name? Snake Doctor.
They kill Snake Doc. They kill Bill Paxton dies in that
they-
movie.
it's terrible. Not like we're doing a spoiler alert. I'm just saying it's terrible. But
When I was
Navy
little,
SEALs,
though,
the
anyway,
actual
yeah.
SEALs,
The actual
Okay,
SEALs, not the movie. Yeah.
Now, the Navy SEALs, everybody knows about the Navy SEALs, but for those of you that haven't seen it, you could probably find it on YouTube. It's certainly all over cable TV. Their training, specifically, Hell Week of the Buds training program. The thing about the Navy SEALs that I've always so greatly respected is not their level of, tactical expertise. It's not their success rate even in what they do. It's not their, all these different superpowers, that people think they have.
Which they might.
And as I would say, as admirable
Yeah.
as all those things may be, the thing that really has always impressed me is these were guys that don't quit.
Yeah.
These were guys that you could put them through hell, literally,
Yeah.
and they will not quit. I saw there was a show. It was held in Europe. I think it was held in Europe. And they have a bunch of volunteers to basically go through elite military forces special training for a week. And one of the weeks was the SEALs.
They did the Hell Week, yeah.
They did their version of the Hell Week.
Sure.
And it was an incredible, thing to watch normal people being there. But you see all the cunty men show their cuntiness. You see all the weak women, go back to being, weak women. And it brings out who you are at the core.
It does, yeah.
Because at some point, in order to sort of preserve your self-image, your self-identity, self-respect, you start justifying why you're doing what you're doing.
Correct.
And that type of training brings that out in everybody. But when you look at Hell Week, and I'm not talking about the guys that, ring out, the guys that quit, and I won't judge them at all. I haven't gone through fucking Buds. But the people that do make it, it's just they don't break.
No.
They just don't break.
They don't.
They just keep going.
Yeah.
I have a dog. My dog's a little special.
Dog's cool.
My dog knows some stuff.
Yeah, he's a cool dog.
And my dog won't stop. My dog will not stop. I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen what my dog has been through. And there's something enamoring, to watch these things.
Yeah.
And by things, I just mean just natural entities, whether it's a Navy SEAL or an animal in the wild, and see how indifferent they are to suffering.
Correct, yeah.
And the strength that they can display because of that indifference.
Yeah.
It's incredible stuff.
Yeah.
So
that clarity of purpose,
Right.
where it's just one direction forward.
Right.
No sides, no turns, no backwards.
Mm-hmm. And with the SEALs, and it's not to say that other forces you have different
There's all
elite
kinds
forces,
of different, yeah.
Around the military. Just speaking specifically of the SEALs, because to be quite honest, I'm thinking specifically of the TV show and their Buds and their Hell Week.
Yeah.
And seeing what they go through.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't have that type of exposure to all the other clubs, and they may all qualify, but
No, we've made special forces pressure players before overall.
right. Right.
So
where this is concerned, SEALs,
Yep.
pressure players,
awesome.
unicorns.
Unicorn.
And now we went over this to some extent, so I don't want to expound upon it for any great length of time.
Yeah.
But pro-migrant politicians. My issue with pro-migrant politicians, and not pro-migrant citizens, but the politicians specifically,
Yeah.
is that they all know what they're doing.
They do.
They know what they're doing.
It's calculated.
They're leading their people, dangling compassion
Yeah.
on a string. They're leading their people to a suffering that is going to be purely in the form of submission. There is no strength that is being brought to these countries that are being overrun with migrants. And the
opposite.
The politicians know it.
They definitely know it.
They know it. They're being taken care of. They're going to circumvent the experience that the average citizen of their respective countries is going to have to endure. And they're doing it deviously. They're doing it with intent. They do not care. Now, do some of them rationalize, what they're doing to the point where they're saying, well, you know what? This is actually going to make everything better. I don't believe that for a second. The magicians are usually the clever ones.
Yeah.
And there's some fucking magic shows going on.
They never reveal their secrets. A good one, at least.
Right. So a unicorn, pro-migrant politicians.
Yes.
Suffering, elixir of the strong. Break it down, you cracker.
Oh, I will. So, awesome episode. Suffering. Unfortunately, it seems that most people are stuck in the fraudulent ways that suffering breeds strength. Just kind of caught on the wrong side of the fence, and they need more education on it. They need to experience more things. The not so accepted way is pain inoculation. People think a lot of the times that we're out of our minds. We do some of the things we do, and they'll never understand it, and that's fine. They don't have to. And like, that's not for everybody. But if you're looking for a place to get strong, like suffering is where it's at. If you have goals, they're not going to be easy. Anything worth attaining is not easy. And if you think it is, then you're misled. And then, the accepted ways, I mean, people do that every day, but I think a lot of times they're doing it incorrectly. They're going soft. They're not pushing. They're not doing the right things. They're not going to take it to the next level, to the point where it becomes a challenge every time you set foot in the gym, every time you train. If you're comfortable, you're not training. The only time you're actually training is when you're uncomfortable and you're pushing and climbing that ladder of strength. That's it.
Well said. We started the episode with a definition of what suffering was, which is the discomfort experienced in the face of adversity and strife. And the discomfort is what I would want people to focus on. Indifference is the goal. Indifference is what we want to experience in the face of adversity. I think about, everything that I've been through in my life, and the things that at the time I felt that I was, lips out in a box of quicksand, that, at any second it was a wrap. And it felt like there was no possible way I could have come back from these situations. In hindsight, I know all of that perception to be completely emotional. And if I had an indifference to suffering, how it would have played out so much more effectively, so much more painlessly.
Yeah.
I think about the average level of indifference to suffering that people have, and it's something that I think we're getting wrong nowadays. Some of us, I'll give you guys a test. Go home, put on the water of your shower, purely cold water. No hot, purely cold. Walk in and just stay there for 30 seconds. Most people will refuse to do it. They're not in danger. They're not going to get hurt. They're not going to get injured.
No.
But the level of discomfort they'll experience is something that makes them almost feel the pain before they even touch the water. And that is what I'm speaking about. That is what I'm commenting on. If we're to be stronger as a society, we need to build an indifference to suffering. That is where the strength that suffering can give us actually plays itself out. Not in any overcoming of adversity. That's power. Not in every crushing of challenges. That's power. And indifference to that suffering, and indifference to those conditions that would usually cause us discomfort. That's what strength is. And that's what we should be working toward. Thank you, folks, for listening to this episode. Cool topic.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Cool topic. I was glad we got to share our views on it. And we appreciate you guys hanging out with us and checking it out. You guys know our website, thepressureproject.com. Our contact email, info@thepressureproject.com. And if you haven't been there already, please go to and check out thepressureprojectmembers.com. 3-month memberships, $25. Check it out, especially if you've ever gotten anything out of this. The more you support us, the more we're able to do. And we appreciate every unit of gratitude you guys share our way. Thank you, folks. We appreciate your time and your loyalty. We look forward to speaking to you on the next episode. And as always, brothers, pressure to power.